You ever notice how we're obsessed with generational labels? Boomers destroyed the economy, millennials killed napkins, Gen Z can't look up from their phones. And then there's me, just standing here. Generation X, born somewhere in the static between 65 and 80. I'm the coworker who already fixed the printer and didn't say a word about it. I'm the parent who made sure you had lunch money but didn't make a whole production out of it. The internet you're all addicted to? I built that. Or at least I watched it get built from my cubicle, but you won't see me posting about it on Instagram. I don't really post. And here's the thing nobody seems to acknowledge. My brain is probably the most fascinating and misunderstood mess of any generation alive. Let's start with what defined us more than anything. We were latchkey kids. And I don't mean a few of us had to let ourselves in after school. This was standard for millions of us. Picture this. It's 1978. I'm 8 years old. The bus drops me off. I walk to the door, pull out that key hanging from a shoelace around my neck, and let myself into an empty house. No iPad to FaceTime mom, no Ring doorbell for check-ins, just me, the hum of the fridge. Maybe I pour some cereal, turn on the TV, all 4 channels, and I wait. By 1984, roughly 7 million of us were just alone after school. 7 million. That's not some isolated thing. That's an entire generation learning at a very young age that nobody's coming to save you. Figure it out yourself. And that empty house, it rewired my brain. It taught me that consequences are real and immediate. I couldn't text mom for permission. I couldn't Google what to do. I made a choice and lived with what happened next. And when my parents finally showed up, discipline wasn't a discussion. It wasn't some feelings-focused family meeting. I messed up, I got punished, end of story. No appeals. Psychologists call this a high-contingency environment. I just call it Tuesday. Your brain gets wired to think 2, 3 steps ahead because you had to. That's why I have this almost eerie ability to see problems coming before they hit. I'm not a pessimist. I'm just running constant simulations in my head because that's how I survived. But here's where it gets darker. I watched my parents preach one thing and do another. All this talk about commitment, loyalty, doing the right thing. Then divorce rates exploded. I watched my dad give 30 years to a company only to get a pink slip during the next downsizing. The message landed hard. The system will betray you. People will let you down. Promises are worthless. Psychologists call it defensive pessimism. I just call it pattern recognition. I hope for the best, sure, but I plan for the worst, because in my experience, the worst shows up pretty regularly. This isn't cynicism, it's armor. And it makes me seem detached. Really, I'm just protecting myself from the inevitable disappointment. This is exactly why you barely see me on social media, not because I don't understand technology. Remember, I built most of it, or at least I know how to hardwire the router. It's because I grew up when privacy was normal. When I did something embarrassing as a teenager, maybe 10 people knew. Maybe it came up at one party, but it didn't live forever on the internet. No permanent record of every stupid thing I said or wore. To me, broadcasting my life online doesn't feel liberating. It feels dangerous, exposed, vulnerable. I learned early, the less people know about you, the safer you are. So I watch, I lurk, I observe, but I don't participate. Not because I can't, because I remember what silence felt like, and I'm not giving it up for likes. Then there's the irony. I've been told I weaponized ironic detachment. Everything's a joke. Nothing's that serious. Keep it light. Keep moving. Don't let anyone see you care too much. Where did this come from? Try growing up during the Cold War. I did nuclear fallout drills in elementary school, the teacher calmly explaining how to duck under my desk when the bombs dropped. Like plywood was going to protect me from thermonuclear war. Adults acted like total annihilation could happen any random Tuesday. But also, don't worry, everything's fine. When you're raised in that kind of split reality, you learn to hold contradictions. You learn to laugh so you don't scream. You keep distance from everything because attachment feels like setting yourself up for pain. But despite all this, the neglect, the instability, the constant mixed messages, I developed one of the most interesting work ethics of any generation. I don't talk about it. I don't post LinkedIn manifestos about hustle culture. I just show up and do the work. This was forged early. Paper routes at 5 a.m., a 12-year-old responsible for delivering news to hundreds of houses, bagging groceries, running a register, and calculating change in my head when the system went down. These weren't resume builders. They were raw, unfiltered introductions to adult responsibility. I watched my parents get destroyed by corporate America, so I never believed in corporate loyalty. But I am obsessed with being competent, with being valuable. I can't control whether I'll get laid off. I learned that early. But I can control whether I'm the last person anyone would want to let go. So I make myself indispensable. Quietly. Without fanfare. There's this paradox at my core. I am simultaneously the most independent generation and the most quietly collaborative. I will never ask you for help. I've been solving my own problems since I was 8. But if you need help, I'll show up. No drama, no post about what a good person I am. I'll just do it. This comes from forming deep friendships out of necessity when parents were absent. My friends became my family because they had to, and that loyalty stuck. Now, let's talk about authority, because my relationship with it is complicated. I respect competence, not titles. If you've earned your position through actual skill and knowledge, I will follow you anywhere. I'll have your back. But if you're just some executive who talks well but doesn't know what they're doing, zero patience. I will quietly undermine you while smiling to your face. I question authority because I watched incompetent authority figures make catastrophic decisions my whole life. Watergate, Iran-Contra, the AIDS crisis handled with criminal negligence. I learned young, people in charge don't necessarily know what they're doing, and blind obedience is for suckers. Economically, I got hammered repeatedly. The oldest of us graduated into a recession. The middle ones got hit by the dot-com crash. The youngest came of age right as 2008 nuked the economy. I've been economically traumatized over and over, which is why so many of us have multiple income streams. Not because we're naturally entrepreneurial, but because we've learned viscerally that nothing lasts. Every job is temporary. Every company will eventually screw you. Diversify or die. This created psychological baggage. I report significantly lower rates of seeking social support during stress, not because I don't have people to ask, but because asking feels like weakness, like failure. I was raised to handle things alone, and that programming runs deep. It makes me incredibly capable in a crisis, but it also means I struggle with vulnerability, with letting people in, with admitting I might need help. My relationship with information is different too. Before Google, knowledge had weight. I spent hours in libraries, flipping through card catalogs, hunting for one specific book that might have the answer. Information required effort, time, physical labor. And because of that, what I learned stuck differently. When information costs you something to obtain, your brain holds it more permanently. I learned to fix things with my hands because that's what you did. Bike chain slips? Flip it upside down. Get grease on my fingers. Figure it out. TV goes fuzzy? Smack it until it works. Nobody called a technician. I was the technician. This built a mechanical intuition, a belief that with enough patience and the right tool, you could master the physical world. And now I'm raising kids in a completely different universe. Helicopter parents, constant supervision, social media documenting every moment. I gave my kids the attention I never had, but sometimes I worry I've made them soft, too dependent, too visible. Because in my worldview, being visible means being vulnerable, and vulnerability gets you hurt. Here's the truth. I might be the last generation that truly remembers what it means to be bored, to be alone with my thoughts, to solve a problem without instantly Googling the answer. I'm not better than other generations, just different, shaped by a specific moment in history when the old world was dying but the new one hadn't arrived yet. I'm the bridge generation, the middle child of modern history. And bridges don't get parades, they don't get recognition. We're just there, doing the work, holding things together, expecting nothing in return. And honestly, that's the most Gen X thing of all. Not caring whether anyone notices, not needing the credit, just getting it done and moving on.